Hi guys, Hanrider here, back with another video, and it seems that Friday the 13th was very unlucky for me. Today I drove the car for the first time this year after having paid the taxes and the insurance and the road tax and some gas and so on, so a fair amount of expenses. And I wanted to go and inflate the tires a bit, because I'm always losing pressure in the rear tires during the winter. But this time it wasn't so bad, maybe because in November I took the car to have its biannual technical inspection, which went great, and that day I also drove around for like 50 kilometers to get the juices a bit flowing in the engine and so on, after the car had sat for like 2 months, something like that, maybe 3, I don't remember exactly. Anyway, I went and I inflated the tires, and I noticed a symptom that was happening last year as well, and namely that I had trouble getting into first and second gear. So when coming to a stop light, or when stopping behind another car, when the car was in neutral and I tried to shift into first, or when I was approaching also a stoplight, or some car ahead of me and I was like in third and tried to go back to second, I had trouble doing this. And I drove around like maybe 20 kilometers, and when I was approaching my home, the symptoms were getting worse and worse. On top of that, I live in a neighborhood where the traffic is pretty high, but there are few parking places, and there was an old beat up van in front of us, and like other 3-4 cars, and that van was looking for a parking place, and he was literally crawling. And this neighborhood I live in is at the base of a mountain, that mountain over there, and the streets are pretty steep, and I couldn't get the car into lower gears, and I like smoked up the clutch a lot. Eventually the car broke down, meaning that I cannot engage first and second, like 2 streets away from my home, and one of these being a very steep one. And so I I parked the car there for like 4 or 5 hours, because I had work to do, and I had hoped that maybe it will miraculously fix itself, at least until I can get the car to a service, to a mechanic, and that didn't happen. Ultimately I drove the car to my street in reverse. I'm parking the wrong way around, so to speak, compared to my usual parking style. And yeah, so the gears are gone, and so there was no apparent reason for this fault, other than not being able to smoothly engage the gears, but there was no grinding noises. So maybe this is not some synchro mesh issue, hopefully, because for fixing synchro meshes, the gearbox most likely needs to be taken apart. So although I'd say that this is first gear, based on how the stick, the shift lever is positioned, and this is third. Basically what happens is that this and this are only third, and this and these are fourth, and third, fourth, fifth and reverse are no issue. But anyway, I cannot drive the car like this to a mechanic. I've spoken with 2 mechanics, and one is not willing to work on the gearbox. He says that maybe there's something wrong with the mechanism, which is right here under the shift lever, so maybe something is blocking the access, or something blocking or restricting the access to the first and second gears. And he offered to take a look at this part of the entire mechanism. I took this skirt off earlier, like 10 minutes ago, but I don't see anything apparent or anything wrong with it. But then again, I'm not a mechanic, and the other mechanic told me that okay, he will take the gearbox apart if necessary, but he wants to work like this. I should take the car there, and because I don't have first and second gears, I must be towed. But a friend of mine told me that he doesn't want to do this because it can be dangerous. So okay, then maybe I should and he said that maybe I should take the car to the mechanic on a platform. Platform costs, because this mechanic told me, okay, bring the car, we will take the gearbox down, and while I work on the gearbox, you must take your car to some other place, because I don't have place in my service center and around it to have the car parked there. And that means paying for a platform at least 3 times, which is fucking bullshit. And yeah, so I'm pretty fucked. So Friday the 13th fucked me, and proper fucked me, not just in the literal sense. So yeah, and I was so fucking psyched, you know, to just cruise around and enjoy this car, because it's you know, I have my new phone holder. I used it also for the first time today. It was nice, and then the seats still look nice and are still cushy, and the leather is still okay, and now I have to leave the car outside to roast in the sun and to fuck. Anyway, I guess these things happen, and if I'm honest, judging on the symptoms that were present last year as well, it was just a matter of time. And I knew deep down, deep inside my heart, deep inside my soul, I knew that this was going to happen. So yeah, but I had hoped that it will happen a bit later in the year or something like that, and maybe I can get through this summer, because last year I basically drove like 3,000 kilometers, so that's nothing really, you know. But yeah, so now I have to decide either to take the car to the first mechanic, who said that maybe he can take a quick peek at the shift lever mechanism, and maybe he can troubleshoot it and fix it, and that's it. But if he is not successful, that means that I have to pay a platform to that service center, and back to the other service center, and then again back to my house if the second mechanic takes the gearbox apart. And you know, the big problem in Romania is that stand-up, knowledgeable, straightforward, honest mechanics are very, very hard to come by. And sure, if I look in like yellow pages or the internet or something like that, I can find like 100 mechanics in my hometown, you know, so there's no shortage of them. But when you have kind of an exotic car for this country, at least, you don't really want to experiment, because bills can stack up and add up fast, and you end up paying lots of money, or at least having arguments and fucked up situations repeatedly, and the car still doesn't work, you know. So okay, I'm willing to get it fixed, because if I try to sell it, I will never ever get the correct price for this car, keeping in mind the condition. Because I mean, look, it's I'd say that for a 26-year-old car, this is a nice one, you know. It has currently 256,000 kilometers, and you know, it's okay. The headliner is nice, the seats are nice, the engine still is pretty strong, pretty feisty, so to speak. So you know, it's not a beaten up Saab 9000, but yeah, I'm a bit disappointed. But yeah, we'll have to find a solution. Life goes on, you know. But I'm very curious how long will this take, because last time when I had engine troubles, it took nearly 2 months, you know, and just to find out that the mass airflow sensor was done, and no one could troubleshoot it correctly. Ultimately, I found some forum discussions, but you know, summer is here, the weather is nice, and it's going to get nicer, and I also have the bike, and I want to ride, and I want to drive the car, and I want to have fun. I don't want to look for answers on some obscure forums, you know. But anyways, I hope that your Friday was better, and will be better if you're in another time zone. What is a bit the silver lining for today is that I've a very good friend of mine who lives in Germany. He, for the past 2 years, he wanted to buy some cheap car just to use it like you know, a commuter car, and we came very close to solve his problem when we found a nice Jaguar S-Type, and he cocked about a bit for like half a day, and the guy who sold the car, was selling the car, sold it, and he was very disappointed because he really liked the car. And anyway, and a few weeks back I found a very nice 1992 Mercedes S-Class with only 130,000 kilometers, and the seller says they're original kilometers, and he says that he's the first owner of that car, and the photos and the general state of the car is excellent. So really it looks very nice, and he's going to go tonight to see the car, and hopefully it will turn out to be the right choice and the right car for him. And if that does happen, I'm very happy for him, because funny thing, I found the car totally randomly in the same city he lives in. He lives in Germany, and I was joking. He was away on vacation, and I sent him the advertisement with the car, and I was joking that you know, you just have to go to another street from where you live, and the car's there, just buy it. This is a very nice looking S-Class, and it turns out that the car is literally 2 streets away from his address. So if this will happen, then it will be one of the nicest and funniest coincidences lately that happened in my life. So yeah, I'm rooting for that, and when he gets tired of that car, maybe I'll buy it, you know, because deep down I'm hoping to get a W140 S-Class at some point in my life, because at this point I think that Mercedes is the car for me, and because new Mercedes cost like an arm and a leg, a nice W140 will do for me. So with that in mind, guys, have a nice weekend, and see you in the next video.